They told you caring is strength. They told you being open is noble. They told you vulnerability is the highest form of humanity. It sounds beautiful on paper, and it's exactly how people get played in real life. Caring without control isn't strength. It's exposure, and exposure is leverage, just not yours. From the time you were a kid, you were trained to look outside yourself for permission. Smile wider. Apologize faster. Soften your edges so no one feels threatened. You didn't notice that every apology, every oversharing moment, every just checking in text slowly traded your power for the hope of being liked. You thought emotional availability would buy connection. What it really bought was anxiety, exhaustion, and the feeling that your mood belongs to anybody who can push the right button. Niccolò Machiavelli would laugh at our modern obsession with being liked. He didn't preach cruelty, he preached control. Power doesn't come from being emotional. It comes from mastering emotion. When you care in every direction, anyone can steer you. When you react on cue, anyone can script you. And when you need to be understood, the people who understand you best will be the first to use it. The cold art of not caring isn't about becoming a robot. It's about becoming selective. It's choosing silence where others beg. It's walking away when others chase. It's seeing the bait and leaving the hook in the water. In that restraint, you stop being a target and start becoming untouchable. Drop this in the comments to set your frame. I owe no one an emotional explanation. Let's make it practical. 1. Caring makes you predictable. Predictability makes you weak. If they can predict you, they can control you. That's the unromantic truth. Most people are easy to play because their triggers are public. Everyone around them knows. Insult this topic and they explode. Withhold this approval and they spiral. Act distant and they rush to prove their worth. Once your reactions are mapped, your value plummets. Your presence becomes cheap because your attention is for sale. Every sigh gives away a pressure point. Every paragraph-long text message screams, "I need you to see me." And that need is the leash. Machiavelli's move wasn't noise, it was observation. He watched longer than others could tolerate. He spoke less than others thought was safe. He learned without announcing it. That's what strength looks like up close. Unfazed by disrespect, uninterested in praise, unreadable in conflict. The person who doesn't flinch wins. The one who doesn't chase attracts. The one who doesn't need to be understood controls the tempo. This is where you stop playing the victim and start operating like a weapon. Type it to solidify it. My silence is my power. When people stop being able to predict you, they stop being able to move you, which leads to the next rule. 2. Emotional investment is the setup for manipulation. The easiest way to control someone isn't with force, it's with attachment. Make them care first, and logic dies second. That's why manipulators rush intimacy. They compliment too early. They open up too fast. They mirror your pain. It's not trust, it's a tactic. If they get your emotions involved, your questions stop. Red flags look like rough patches. You begin to defend what you should be examining. Machiavelli understood what modern psychology keeps rediscovering. Feelings fog judgment. A ruler must know how to be both man and beast. Translation for today. Use logic to rule your choices, and use detachment to protect your mental throne. Your throne isn't a palace, it's your stability. Guard it by removing emotional bait. How? Start with a few hard rules. No overexposure. You don't owe the internet your diary, your office, your insecurities, or acquaintances the story of your childhood. No compulsive clarifying. If someone misreads your tone, let them. People committed to misunderstanding you can't be convinced. They can only be starved of access. No knee-jerk reactions to provocation. Every urgent poke is an invitation to bleed in public. Move like a strategist. Your attention is currency. Invest it where it compounds. The more someone can trigger you, the more rent-free space they occupy in your head. The more you need to be understood, the less you'll understand the game. Lock this in below. I feel nothing. I calculate everything. The shift begins here. Emotional detachment isn't numbness, it's governance. You don't deny feelings, you deny them the steering wheel. You feel anger and choose not to fire. You feel disappointment and refuse to fold. That's not coldness, that's clarity. Starting now, the goal isn't to be seen as good, it's to be remembered as disciplined. The room doesn't respect the loudest person. It respects the one whose energy can't be pulled on command. When you stop reacting like a public faucet, two things happen fast. Manipulators get bored, and serious people pay attention. Say it out loud, or type it so you see it twice. I'm not here to be understood. I'm here to be in control. When you get this right, your absence speaks, your silence educates, and your standards do the talking. That's the beginning of the cold art of not caring, and the end of you being optional. Indifference isn't weakness. It's control disguised as stillness. When you master the cold art of not caring, you don't become numb. You become selective. You stop giving emotional CPR to dead situations. You stop reacting to every insult, every tone shift, every minor disappointment. Most people drain themselves defending their dignity to people who were never listening in the first place. They spend their life bleeding energy for reactions, not results. Machiavelli knew better. He understood that rulers who react emotionally are ruled by emotion. The moment people know what offends you, what excites you, what you crave, they own you. But when they can't read you, they can't reach you. Mystery becomes your armor. Indifference becomes your blade. Strategic indifference doesn't mean disconnection from life. It means disconnection from nonsense. It's not about being cold-hearted. It's about being cold-headed. When someone tries to guilt you, you don't debate it. When someone disrespects you, you don't demand clarity. You simply remove what they wanted most, your emotional presence. That absence is punishment enough. The world is addicted to reactions. But you move in silence. Because silence backed by self-respect is the most devastating form of communication. It's not revenge, it's revelation. When you stop playing the emotional game, the players start crumbling. Their control collapses without your participation. Say it right now in the comments. My indifference is my revenge, because it is. When people can't provoke you, they have to live with themselves. That's psychological warfare, and it's how you rise. 4. How to emotionally detach without losing your mind. Detachment doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop being ruled by feelings. It's the difference between emotion and control. Most people think detachment means suppression. They shove emotions down, pretending not to care, until it bursts out later as rage or despair. That's not power, that's pressure. True detachment is presence with discipline. It's when you feel everything but act on nothing until you've chosen your move. Machiavelli didn't teach people to be emotionless. He taught them to act against their emotions when strategy demanded it. That means you can feel anger and still stay calm. You can feel fear and still act with reason. You can feel betrayed and still keep your mouth shut. That's emotional maturity. That's command. And that's rare. So, how do you build it? Step 1. Observe your triggers. Every time someone delays, insults, ignores, or tests you, pause. Don't react, just watch. Let the emotion rise, but don't let it drive. You owe no one your reaction. You owe no one access to your inner temperature. Step 2. Interrupt the story. Your mind loves to invent narratives. They ignored me because I'm not enough. They said that because they hate me. Stop. Those stories belong to weakness, not wisdom. Replace them with 2 words. Interesting. Noted. Then return to your mission. You're not here to decode disrespect. You're here to master control. Step 3. Vanish without guilt. When someone crosses the line, you don't owe them a warning, an explanation, or closure. You leave. Quietly. No grand speech, no guilt. Silence will teach them more than words ever could. Step 4. Focus on mission, not emotion. Emotions lose power when purpose takes its place. Most people stay stuck in emotional loops because they have nothing stronger than the feeling itself. But when your purpose is clear, distractions expose themselves. Ask this simple question: does this help my mission or drain it? If it drains, it dies. Step 5. Practice emotional minimalism. You don't need to discuss every feeling. You don't need to chase closure. You don't need to be seen. You just need to stay sharp. Oversharing is how you leak your power. Silence is how you refine it. Because the truth is, emotional detachment isn't coldness. It's clarity. It's knowing that not everything deserves your fire. You detach not because you're heartless, but because your heart is too powerful to be wasted on chaos. You protect it like a king guards his crown. Say it in the comments. I don't chase closure. I control exposure. 5. Emotionlessness is power in social warfare. In a world obsessed with validation, the calmest person always wins. Everyone else scrambles for attention, likes, apologies, admiration, understanding. But the one who stays composed while the rest overreact, that's the one who controls the room. This isn't detachment anymore. This is dominance. Every room, every group, every conversation is a silent contest of influence. People test you without realizing it. They poke, question, challenge, just to see if you'll flinch. They measure your composure before they measure your intellect. And the moment you show emotional instability, they subconsciously lower your status. That's why Machiavelli said it's better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both. Fear doesn't mean terror, it means respect. And respect is born from unreadability. The man who can't be provoked owns every conversation. When someone insults you and you stay calm, you win. When they ghost you and you don't even blink, you win. When they try to bait you and you smile, unmoved, they collapse under the silence. Not because you overpowered them, but because you didn't need to. Emotionlessness confuses emotional people. They feed off reactions. They expect guilt, outrage, explanations. When you give none, they start doubting themselves. Their mind races to fill the silence you left. You flip the script. They're reacting to you now. The one who cares less always controls more. That's not cruelty, it's strategy. It's self-mastery disguised as indifference. It's learning that power belongs to the man who stays calm in chaos, still under pressure, and silent during storms. When emotion stops ruling you, you stop being a piece on the board and start becoming the one moving the pieces. Guard your energy like a fortress. That's Machiavelli's rule in modern form. Coldness is the gate. Time is currency. Energy is wealth. Attention is leverage. Yet most people hand those things out like free samples to anyone who asks. They argue with fools, defend themselves to critics, and spend emotional energy on people who never deserved a second thought. Then they wonder why they feel drained, used, and angry at the world. Here's the truth. What you give emotion to, you empower. Every outburst, every "let me explain," every attempt to prove your worth is a wire connecting your power supply to someone else's hands. Machiavelli didn't waste his attention on anything that didn't serve strategy. He didn't argue to be understood. He acted to be remembered. He didn't try to convince the unworthy. He conserved his strength like a general saving troops for the real battle. You have to start treating your attention the same way. From this point forward, every word, every glance, every ounce of emotion is a weapon, used with precision or not at all. You don't defend yourself to people who don't matter. You don't explain your decisions to those outside your mission. You don't give your energy to arguments that don't end in progress. Because every time you do, you're paying with your peace. Think of it like this. Every emotional reaction is a transaction. The question is, what are you getting in return? When you respond to nonsense, you lose clarity. When you argue with fools, you lose time. When you seek closure from manipulators, you lose dignity. Not anymore. From now on, treat your energy like royalty treats access. Earned, not given. You don't chase after disrespect. You disappear from it. You don't reply to bait. You let silence crush it. You don't tell people they've lost your trust. You let them feel the emptiness where your presence used to be. No reaction, no explanation, just absence. That's not weakness. That's warfare. Because in a world that glorifies noise, control is the rarest form of power. Here's what happens when you turn cold in the right way. People start to hesitate before crossing you. They start replaying their words after every interaction. They sense something in your silence they can't name, but they feel it. They can't tell if you're angry or indifferent, and that confusion becomes your shield. Your silence becomes a wall. Your indifference becomes a signal. It tells the world, I'm not loud, but I'm final. That's what Machiavelli meant when he said cruelty can be used wisely. Not physical cruelty, but psychological clarity. The ability to cut ties without ceremony, to end access without warning, to let people feel the weight of losing your energy. Because once they've felt it, they never forget it. You're not cruel, you're calculated, you're not cold-hearted, you're disciplined. You've simply decided your emotions are too sacred to hand over to chaos. You've learned that peace is expensive and that not everyone can afford your presence. And because of that, you walk lighter. You think sharper, you sleep deeper. You become the person everyone wonders about but no one can touch. You move in silence, yet your name stays in the room long after you've left it. That's the paradox of true coldness. It doesn't push people away, it forces the wrong ones to remove themselves. 6. Strength is walking away, not winning the argument. You've been taught your whole life that strength is loud. That it's about standing up, speaking out, explaining yourself. But Machiavellian strength is quieter. It's walking away without needing to prove anything. It's letting people misunderstand you while you build in silence. It's watching someone try to provoke you, and instead of reacting, you smile and walk away mid-sentence. Not because you're angry, but because they no longer matter. That's dominance without words. That's control without effort. When you stop chasing closure, you start creating it. When you stop trying to be understood, you become the mystery people can't stop thinking about. Weak people beg for explanations. Strong people move on without a sound. And here's the secret. They always come back. The same people who once took you for granted will feel your absence like an ache. They'll wonder if you're angry, if you've changed, if they did something wrong. That's the beauty of silence. It makes others reflect while you progress. You must understand, being emotionally open to everyone makes you vulnerable to anyone. Boundaries aren't built through speeches. They're built through distance. Let them talk. Let them complain about how cold you've become. That's what happens when people lose access to the version of you they could manipulate. The emotionally cold man isn't bitter, he's focused. He isn't numb, he's precise. He isn't angry, he's finished. That's the energy that scares people because it can't be reasoned with. It's calm, decisive, and final. Coldness isn't about cruelty. It's about clarity. It's realizing that you don't owe your emotional world to anyone who hasn't earned the right to see it. The world told you that being kind meant being endlessly available, that strength meant always explaining, that real men are open books. But that's not strength. That's surrender. True strength is selective vulnerability. It's knowing when to speak and when to disappear. When you master this, you'll notice something powerful. People start regulating themselves around you. They choose their words more carefully. They step lighter. They respect your silence because they can feel that you're not afraid to use it. They realize that your absence is more valuable than their presence. And that's the ultimate shift. So stop arguing with people who don't listen. Stop explaining to people committed to misunderstanding you. Stop wasting energy on relationships that feed on your attention but starve your purpose. Coldness isn't punishment. It's filtration. It reveals who values you and who only valued your access. Let them talk. Let them assume. Let them fill in the blanks. You don't owe them clarity. You owe yourself peace. Say it in the comments. If it drains me, it doesn't deserve me, because that's the truth. You've evolved. You've grown past the need to be understood. And the moment you stop explaining yourself, that's when you finally take your power back. When you stop caring, everything changes. The paradox is brutal, but real. The less you care, the more they chase. The moment you detach, they panic. When you go silent, they get louder. When you disappear, they start obsessing. It's not magic, it's psychology. People crave what they can't control, and when they lose emotional access to you, it creates a void they can't stand. Human nature runs on validation. The moment you stop providing it, people start questioning their worth. They replay your old messages, overanalyze your silence, and wonder what they did wrong. It's not love, it's addiction. You became their mirror, and when you removed it, they lost their reflection. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He knew that withdrawal creates power because people chase what retreats. Absence doesn't make the heart grow fonder. It makes the ego unstable. You don't create obsession through attention. You create it through distance. You don't build respect by being available. You build it by being scarce. Your silence becomes a mystery. Your indifference becomes their addiction. And the more you refuse to react, the more they unravel. So from now on, stop giving emotional discounts. Stop explaining. Stop reassuring. Stop responding just to fill silence. The silence is your leverage. Let them feel it. Let them wonder what changed. Because when people don't get closure, they invent it. And in that invention, they turn you into a myth. That's Machiavellian psychology. You never beg to be understood. You let absence rewrite your value for you. Say it in the comments. I give nothing for free, not even my attention. Because attention is the most expensive currency on earth. And once you learn to keep it to yourself, you'll notice something eerie. People start chasing what they once ignored. They become obsessed with the peace you found without them. That's not cruelty. It's control through self-respect. 8. Emotional distance builds long-term power. Short-term emotion costs long-term dominance. Every time you react emotionally, you trade your future for the moment. Machiavelli's genius wasn't just about manipulation, it was about patience. He understood that true rulers don't win by reacting fast. They win by acting last. They think 10 moves ahead, and emotional distance is what lets them see that far. Emotional distance doesn't mean detachment from life. It means positioning. When you detach from needing approval, you stop negotiating your value. You stop trying to prove anything. You stop begging to be liked. And when you stop chasing validation, you start commanding attention without effort. In negotiation, the calmest man wins. In relationships, the one who's willing to walk away holds control. In life, the person who can move in silence without emotional noise is the one others orbit around. Distance isn't withdrawal, it's strategy. It's you saying, I don't need to win this moment because I'm playing for something bigger. Most people are slaves to emotional immediacy. They want validation now, respect now, attention now. But you're playing for legacy. Emotional discipline is how you build it. It's how you move from reaction to reign. You speak only when necessary. You observe before you act. You reveal little but notice everything. People who used to test you will start treading carefully because they can't predict you anymore. And what can't be predicted must be respected. That's the long game, where emotion becomes energy, and energy becomes influence. Say it clearly. I trade emotions for elevation. Because that's what this transformation is about. You're not suppressing feelings. You're refining them. You're using logic where others use drama. You're focusing on outcomes while others drown in overthinking. The emotionally reactive man fights for attention. The emotionally disciplined man builds empires. Machiavelli didn't want to be loved for a day. He wanted to be remembered for centuries. And that's the energy you adopt now. You're not here for quick validation. You're here for quiet dominance. You don't chase applause. You command presence. You don't react to disrespect. You withdraw your value. And over time, people realize what they lost. The calmest man in the room. The one who couldn't be shaken. They'll try to provoke you again. They'll test you. But every time you choose silence over chaos, every time you choose stillness over reaction, you gain ground. They'll never recover. That's how emotional distance builds power, not instantly, but permanently. From now on, move like a shadow with purpose. Be calm in chaos, still under pressure, unreadable when tested. Because once people realize they can't manipulate your emotions, they start fearing your control. You've evolved from emotional to strategic, from reactive to dominant, from caring to calculating. And that's when you stop surviving the game and start ruling it. This is the final evolution, from emotion to empire. This is where everything you've practiced becomes instinct. You no longer seek validation, you seek victory. You no longer chase peace, you embody it. You no longer explain yourself. You let silence speak for you. Because the moment you stop being emotionally readable, you stop being controllable. And the man who can't be controlled becomes a ruler, of himself first and of everything else second. When you master detachment, you stop being a piece on the chessboard and start becoming the player. While everyone else reacts, you observe. While they panic, you calculate. You're not chasing outcomes. You're shaping them. This is what Machiavelli understood better than anyone. Power doesn't belong to those who talk the loudest. It belongs to those who can control their internal chaos while everyone else drowns in theirs. You've seen it. People lose their composure over words, delay their progress over emotions, destroy relationships over pride. That's what happens when feelings rule the mind. But when you build your inner fortress, storms lose meaning. Silence becomes strategy. Detachment becomes leverage. You move slower, but every move counts. You speak less, but every word hits harder. And now you realize silence isn't weakness. It's calculation. Detachment isn't loneliness. It's liberation. You no longer need to be liked, validated, or understood. You need one thing: mastery over yourself. Because once you rule your own emotions, no one else can rule you. Let them call you cold. Let them say you've changed. They're right, you have. You've evolved beyond emotional dependency. You've outgrown the need to explain your peace. You've stopped playing small in conversations where your worth was never recognized. You've stopped entertaining people who confuse access with value. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. You've reached the point where silence cuts deeper than words, where absence speaks louder than presence. People will start realizing that losing your attention hurts more than losing an argument. Because you're not reacting anymore. You're deciding. You're not driven by emotion. You're driven by purpose. That's the shift from chaos to command, from reaction to reign. You understand something the weak never will. Emotion is visibility. Indifference is invisibility. And in a world obsessed with attention, invisibility is power. You don't need to announce your boundaries. People feel them. You don't need to prove your worth. It's implied in your silence. The world starts to adjust to your rhythm, not the other way around. That's when you become untouchable. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop defending and start observing. You stop arguing and start choosing. Because when you own your emotions, you own the frame. And the frame is everything. Machiavelli never wanted to be adored. He wanted to be remembered. He studied weakness not to exploit it, but to rise above it. You're doing the same. You're no longer the person who replays conversations, overthinks replies, or needs closure from chaos. You've exited the emotional economy. You've entered the realm of power. From this point forward, you live by a code. If it doesn't build your power, it doesn't get your presence. If it doesn't protect your peace, it doesn't get your energy. If it doesn't respect your silence, it loses access to your world. Because your energy is your empire, and your empire starts within. So, let them wonder. Let them assume. Let them invent stories to fill the silence you left behind. The truth is simple. You're not thinking about them at all. You're thinking about your mission, your evolution, your next move. You've gone cold, and that's exactly how you rise. Say it one last time. Emotion doesn't rule me. I rule everything. Because this isn't about being heartless. It's about being unbreakable. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be legendary. And from this moment on, your calm is your weapon. Your silence is your crown. And your indifference is your empire. This isn't motivation. This is war, and it starts within.